Welcome everybody to Pathways to Aviation. We're in day 2 of our Career Symposium. It's a week-long celebration of aviation careers. We're hosting live interviews, career panel discussions, job announcements. We even share a few career tips, which we'll do at 3 o'clock today. Right now, we have an incredible opportunity to meet 2 leaders from an organization that we learned about recently that's doing some amazing things, and we thought, well, let's bring in an organization that does not exactly what we do, but we're all about reaching out to young people to share what this aviation, this aerospace industry is all about. What they do is in line with our mission, which is to inform, inspire, and engage aviation's next generation. So it's pretty exciting to me to have this interview. We had an incredible interview yesterday with Aviation magazine. Again, another organization looking to inspire youth. And so today we have an organization by the name of Choose Aerospace. And rather than have me describe what it's all about, we brought in Ryan and we brought in Crystal to talk all about what the organization is all about and how it was kind of came to life. So I'm going to turn it to you guys. You guys can share the mic at the same time, do whatever you want, but tell us what Choose Aerospace is all about.
You want me to go?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, I'll do the play-by-play, and Ryan can add in the color. It's our shtick usually. So, so Choose Aerospace. It is a partner. It's a brand new organization. It's a partner of the Aviation Technician Education Council, or ATEC. That organization has been around for 50 years. If you are familiar at all with schools that provide mechanic programs, A&P, airframe and power plant programs, those schools, there are 180 of them across the US. They're also in Europe, but for US, FAA certificated schools, 180 of those across the US. So that is a trade organization that represents the interests of all of those schools. So lots of different trade associations out there. The trade association for everything. Also a trade association that represents interests of maintenance schools. So obviously those schools are really looking out for their students, making sure that they have career opportunities after they get through those programs. So one of the primary objectives of ATEC was to promote, exactly what we're talking about today, careers in aviation. So ATEC decided to start a new nonprofit, what we're calling Choose Aerospace, that does just that. It focuses on promoting the career. So we're talking, like national marketing. How did we develop tools, educational resources to not only to support those 180 schools that are members of ATEC, but also any aviation technical program. There are lots of different avenues that I'm sure we'll talk about today, management tracks, all kinds of different tracks. And so this organization is just sort of out there we have some specific initiatives, but in general, it's promoting the career, new organization. Ryan's the president, so he can add in the color.
Yeah. No, I think that's a good introduction, Crystal. And, for me, I've, maybe step back away just a little bit, but, let's talking a little bit about ATEC for just a second. I was the president, the past president of ATEC, and it was one of the things that we had talked about as an organization, quite a few years ago, because we knew the shortage of skilled technicians was going to be out there, and the need for us as an industry to really come together. Like some other industries have. And we needed a campaign. We needed an organization that was really focused on that. I kind of think of Choose Aerospace like the got milk of the dairy industry, right? And really, developing a, kind of a slogan organization that can really bring together the regulator, bring together the airlines, the MROs, the Duncan Aviations, who we talked about a little bit earlier this afternoon, general aviation, because we're all in this together and we all need to be working towards, finding and developing this skilled workforce. And we shouldn't be, fighting against one another. We should really be, developing strategies that really help, those deciding, man, what do I want to do when I grow up? We want them to choose aerospace, and we want to make it, readily available to them, and giving them the resources they need around making that happen. So when I was the president of ATEC, and I'm lucky to be the first president of Choose Aerospace, the idea around aligning the interests of the industry was very near and dear to me. As I represent a very large employer, AAR, who has needs for skilled technicians, and so for us, it was very, very important that we work together, that we develop strategies, as Crystal said, that are not just marketing, but also really getting into the weeds of what do we need these folks to know. And I think what made sense for us is to really start this initiative, which we'll talk about obviously throughout the call, but this initiative really focused in creating curriculum that can be embedded in high schools across the country, that will align with FAA standards, that will allow the student to kind of get their feet wet, so to speak, in aviation, while at the same time making it so that there's transferability of the education they receive in high school to any one of these 180 plus A&P schools in the country. So that's, in essence, Choose Aerospace in a nutshell.
That's amazing. I know when Pathways to Aviation, a little over 4 years ago, embarked on this mission of addressing the workforce issues. We did our homework. We kind of researched, as you should always do in any new enterprise, if you will. And we found that very few of these national associations were really addressing workforce. And that's how I stumbled upon you, Ryan, was I hit ATEC, and at the time we didn't know anything about ATEC, and I did some research and I saw that you were involved. You were speaking on some panel, so I hit every panelist and I said, hey, what's going on? And you were one of the few who wrote back and said, let's talk, which we did. And it's exciting to be, because with Pathways, our goal is to reach every student out there, period. And then when we do that, we can encourage them to at least consider aviation. We're not just at those kids who are just gung-ho all about aviation. And that's why I think Choose Aerospace, you guys are coming out at a great time, because you're kind of in the same line. While you may be connecting with over 100 schools offering these programs, this program is designed for pretty much anyone. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's where, Crystal and I and our board members were really aligned with the fact that what do we think, what program was going to have maximum impact? And because we knew, if you just, think back to February, February, we were in a massive workforce crisis in aviation. We couldn't find people. Companies were developing their own programs because, really out of sheer desperation to get enough people with the talents that we needed to be able to deliver airplanes to our customers. I'm on at least at AAR, and Duncan Aviation creating their own A&P school, which we heard about early this afternoon. Those were all things going on because the pipeline and the pathway just wasn't there. And so, when you look at Choose Aerospace, the idea of creating this universal curriculum, which we can embed, and I always tell Crystal, I only want 10,000 high schools using this curriculum. That's it. That's all my goal is, 10,000 high schools. If we embed this curriculum that lays the foundation for aviation, aviation technical careers, it is going to have the impact not only for those people going maybe from this curriculum directly out of high school to the workforce, or from this curriculum directly into college, into one of these 180 plus schools. So I think you're absolutely right. And we felt at Choose Aerospace, that was the mission that we're taking on now. And we're down the road of some pretty exciting curriculum and curriculum development.
That's awesome. And Crystal, it was about 4 years ago where I was asked to help write curriculum for the state of Nevada for both aviation maintenance and pilot programs, and connect them to standards, which I know that's just, it's not easy. So I'm in awe of what you're about to embark on, because that's a pretty crazy endeavor.
Well, I hear you volunteering to support it, so that's really great. We'll reach out.
Sign him up.
Yeah, no, but I mean, one of the things we're really good about taking on volunteers. So anybody else that wants to speak up, because it is, I mean, it's a Herculean effort, and people ask us what's out there now, you know, in the technical pathway. Not that, I mean, there's some stuff out there, but it's not necessarily all encompassing. And, you know, driving it through a vehicle like Choose Aerospace, where the intent is obviously to fill jobs. You know, Ryan mentioned there's a workforce shortage, let's get the jobs filled, but why not, while you're at it, you know, just market the industry, right? So to your point about getting content in the high school, I'm not a technician. I'm an attorney. I specialize in aviation maintenance, regulatory compliance, right? And I run trade associations, and we do advocacy, regulatory, and legislative advocacy, right? This is all in that aviation technical sort of sphere. But there's so many things, so many places that you could do with it, and just to get the message of, here is an option you should think about. You know, here, one of the courses will be, you know, regulatory compliance, record keeping. What are the privileges of your certificate when you get it? Just to get, you don't necessarily have to be a technician. You know, I need to understand that. I'm not a technician. So just using it, you know, as a marketing piece to kind of show the breadth of opportunity.
That's incredible. And as you were describing that, what was pinging in my head was, and it's what we've adjusted to here at Pathways to Aviation, that yes, we're going to bat for those individuals who want the jobs now, but we're looking 8-10 years into the future,
right?
Because we've got to groom these young people ahead. So, I mean, we have a couple people on the call who are still in high school. Mm-hmm. So an organization like Choose Aerospace, Pathways to Aviation, we can guide them over time, as opposed to making it an immediate urgency. Is that how you guys are set up as well?
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly right. I mean, I think one of the challenges, you know, of if you kind of look at the history of aviation, and, you know, the history is really, you know, whether it's a you know, the 9/11, you know, obviously disaster, whether it was 2008, I think the challenges associated with this are different, because the airline industry and the industry in general went into the pandemic much healthier than it was in past, you know, difficult times. And I think you know, as you know, none of us, you know, I wish we could, you know, have the magic wand and COVID has all gone away and we can go back to our normal lives. But, you know, unfortunately, as you know, the experts say, you know, 2 to 4 years, maybe. I hate to hear it, 4 years, but, you know, in a couple of years, you know, we're going to be, you know, what we believe in a much worse condition than we were prior. And the issue that, you know, that when you look at, you know, aviation is that you have to look at the long term, right? You have to, you know, that, you know, yes, there's a short-term need, or maybe a short-term surplus, but it's going to return. And I think aviation in you know, in its past hasn't been as proactive as it needed to be in those other disasters that really brought about the workforce crisis that we were in prior to COVID-19. So I think when you look at Choose Aerospace, you look at this student that may be 6 years from graduating or 4 years from graduating, these are the times to start to look at, where do I see myself, you know, going to school? Do I even need to go to school, right? I think, you know, whether you start to, you know, there's just lots of dialogue on, you know, maybe
internships.
Yeah, maybe the 4-year degree is not the path for me. And this is not a career that requires a 4-year degree. And therefore, I think these are things that Choose Aerospace, along with Pathways to Aviation, can really instill, you know, looking at, you know, the long-term viability of our industry.
Well,
That-
yeah, and I had a opening because I had this. So Boeing today came out with their annual forecast. I mean, I think it kind of didn't really publish it really widely. It kind of came across it, but they promote, say this is how many people that we expect the industry to need over the course of the next 10 years. And the number that came out today, at least for technicians, I haven't looked really closely at the operations requirements, which is not that far off, than what it was last year. So I imagine they're taking into account, the blip in the road and the early retirements and the, furloughs and the fact that we're still going to need people to maintain aircraft, once we get back up and running. So I think it just illustrates the fact that if you're looking, to get into aviation and you're in school and you're worried about the outlook given, the COVID impacts, even Boeing's, 10-year outlook is supporting the fact that we're going to need people, when we get back up and running. So stay the course. Come on in. There's definitely going to be jobs out there.
Imagine putting that report together.
Right?
Almost done with it, and then the pandemic hits. It's like,
Right.
oh my gosh, I have to scrap the whole thing and start over. But the
Yeah.
fact that they're suggesting that we need to fill 179,000 technician roles, if that's the number I read, like where are these people going to come from? And I think they're going to have to originate almost out of the sky, and that's going to happen through organizations like ours, who are targeting every student, not just those with a track straight to aviation careers. Because what I hear from employers all the time is we can't find the talent. There's no skilled labor talent. And I always laugh at them, and I apologize in advance, but you just don't know how to find them. You don't know where they are. That's why we exist. That's why Choose Aerospace exists, because we're going to tap into them right away, and then we're going to bring them to you, and you guys can have that conversation. So, they're out there. We just need to find. So I guess our goal is we have to fill 179,000 jobs. Next.
Yeah, that's it. It's not that many. So, I think Pete, when you say that, one thing that came to my mind is just, we talked about this, a little bit beforehand in the other session, but, the key I think right now is that, is recognizing that aviation is something for me, right? There is I think so many people, especially people of color and women in technical careers in aviation, they don't see it as viable. And a lot of it is because they either didn't have family in it, they don't know anybody in it, they think you have to be an electrical or mechanical or aerospace engineer to be in it, and therefore they just dismiss aviation relatively soon, just because they don't know. And I think a lot of Choose Aerospace and the conversations that Crystal and I have had with our team is just making that message known. People just don't know. And a great example of that is, some work AAR has done in South Chicago. And, we've had 99% of our cohort of students are African-American. And, one of the questions I just said, I met with every one of them, and they had no idea. Right. And that is horrible. Right. That is not the reason not to be in aviation, is that you don't know. And therefore, one of the things that I really think Choose Aerospace will do is, when you can get this message, the further down you can push the message, right, of aviation into high school and even into middle school, the more likely you are to plant that seed. And that seed can't just be, hey, I went on an AOPA flight, a Young Eagles flight, or I went and toured the airport, right? There's got to be multiple experiences that help solidify the decision that's going to take you down, a life-changing path, because that's what's at stake here. Aviation, this is a life-changing decision. And therefore, we as an industry have to be better aligned through Choose Aerospace, and the curriculum that makes it possible for these folks to navigate this somewhat complicated array of, do I go to school? Do I go to the military? Do I just go to the workforce and do Part 65 through experience and apprenticeship? There's every way has a unique path, is unique, but also, you know, you need somebody along the way to help provide a little guidance. And that's what I think, you know, definitely the Choose Aerospace organization is doing. It's what the curriculum that we want to embed in these 10,000 high schools is going to do, at least on the technical side.
Yeah, and you know what you and Chris are going to hear soon is, where was this when I was young? You know, how come I didn't have this opportunity? I mean, heck, I'm asking the same question. And we've been getting that question or that statement for 3 years. And my goal, one of my goals is to never hear that question again. So that if we're working with every student out there, and our vision is to work with every student, regardless of aviation pathway or not. We want to certify them as career ready. And then we're going to certainly guide them to our side of things, and that being the aviation industry. But that's like our vision. In addition to the curriculum and the schools with which you work, do you guys have a greater vision?
Well, I mean, of course, you know, I think when you, so right now, let's just kind of, you know, let's talk about this 193,000 on the Boeing report, and let's talk about A&P schools. There's roughly 180 of them. There's about 20,000 students that are in school, right? And then, of course, not every one of those graduates, right? So as you start to kind of work through that pipeline, right? There's leakage of people quit and people do other things, and by the time you get all the way to the end of that pipeline, right, we're creating half as many people as we need to hit that number. And so when you look at, that's why I've been so focused on the front end, because if I had 40,000 or 50,000 students in these A&P schools, I wouldn't have the problem as an employer trying to find the skills and people that are interested in these aviation careers. So, you know, as we look at the curriculum, it's one thing, and aligning, I mean, Crystal, she was very, I mean, she kind of breezed over this big, I mean, how Herculean. I want to make sure this is a big task, because it's shifting not only the mindset of the FAA, which is daunting in and of itself, right? But it's also developing new airman certification standards. It's aligning that curriculum so that, you know, all these schools it's a mechanism by which all these schools can accept this curriculum. It's the ability to put it in the schools relatively simple, using augmented and virtual reality, so that they don't have to have airplanes necessarily and these large amount of space required to do an FAA general curriculum. You know, that's one thing. So that's huge in and of itself. But another part of our side of Choose Aerospace is obviously creating the scholarship mechanism. And so, you know, over this year, we're going to award out about $25,000 worth of scholarships to students. And those will be, some will be cash, some will be books, some will be, the different things. And I really see, as we come together as an industry, I really see that exploding off the map, right? I mean, that's going to be a huge opportunity for organizations to really come on board. They know that Choose Aerospace is about technical aviation careers. They know that's going to go to help promote, the idea of choosing an aviation career path, technical career path. And then I also think, there's definitely, not only that is a component, is I also think one of the things that our industry can do a better job of is sharing materials, sharing equipment that the FAA and suspected unapproved parts and things like that. There's a lot of regulation around why either an airline or an MRO doesn't give stuff to a school or to a high school, because they want to ensure that that material doesn't find its way back into an airworthy airplane. But I think that there's ways around that, and there's ways that the industry can come together that provides more modern equipment to work on versus a regulation that, as you know, Pete, is over 50 years old, right? We're training technicians to a standard that was created 50 years ago. And we really need to up the game. And we're doing a lot of work, as Crystal said, on the regulatory front, the legislative front. I think Crystal and I think we have a record, right, of 14 congressional meetings in one day. So we're doing some pretty good things in support of making sure that we have the right environment that is going to help us create the technicians that we need as the recovery happens. So, Crystal, I might have left a few things out, but
Well, I would probably, it's funny because you would usually, be high and I would sort of be in the weeds about, how are we going to do that? Ryan is the idea man. But we talk about vision, right? What's your vision? And Ryan and I have had a lot of conversations about this because we created the organization, right? I mean, it was created based on talks like this around a table. What are you going to do about it, right? I'm done talking about it. Let's get something done. And Ryan and I, we have a lot of heart to hearts. And so we were talking the other day, it was after the first presidential debate, right? And everybody's heads are spinning and we're trying to process and we're talking it through, and we may not have, the same takeaways or the same approaches. He says to me, I just want to do the right thing and I just want to get people good jobs, because what could be more life-changing than that, right? Putting them on the path to a good job where they can take care of their families. And I've been thinking about that. I don't know if you have, Ryan, but I've been thinking, that is what it's all about. And this educational path, right? Aviation trained technicians have very versatile skills, right? They may not all stay in aviation. Our schools provide employees to amusement parks and oil and gas. And yes, we would love for them all to stay here. But as a service to the student, right, you have very transferable skills. You can stay in aviation. You can get a job at your local auto shop, right? Because if you can work on airplanes, surely you can work on a Chrysler, right? I mean, maybe not, sorry, auto mechanics, but you have a lot of different ways to go. And so it's not, you don't just, it's about getting a good job and providing for your family and being a good steward of your community, right? And what better way to make those types of change than just putting people on a path to good employment. So I think that we're gonna create some sort of mission statement around that. I think making it up as we can.
To help with that. It's all about vision at Pathways to Aviation, and our problem, we have a very serious problem, and that's every time we create a strategic plan, like a 3-year plan, we've accomplished it in 3 months. And so that is an issue that we are addressing right now as a board. In fact, tonight, mapping out our future, knowing that we're going to accomplish it in three months, because we bring in people like you to help our journey succeed. And I know we're going to be part of your roadmap because you already recruited me, I guess. But we love strategic planning. We love to vision. Every time I'm in the car with Eric going to a workshop, we're coming up with a new idea. I already know where we're going to be in 12 months, but I want to expand it even more. And it's exciting. And that's why I asked about the vision, like what's next. We're also big proponents of your why. What is your why?
Yeah, I was just
you make up as you go, right? To your point, sometimes the target moves. So we try to have a working, for ATEC, we have a working strategic plan, a working document.
Correct.
Yes, it is important to know like what your ultimate vision is, for sure.
Yeah, it's
awesome.
I would also say, Pete, I mean, you hit the nail right on the head. For me, when I look at an organization like, Pathways to Aviation, it's, obviously Choose Aerospace is creating this technical curriculum and that's important, but every bit as important is creating the good corporate citizen, giving them the skill sets in order to interview and resume build and all the other things that that are critical to aviation, integrity, responsibility. And, when I was, as the past president of Spartan College, I always have this student that just, he just personifies, just the challenges that a lot of folks have. And, inner city Atlanta kind of student and, not a lot of discipline. I ended up suspending that student twice. But that student today works for Delta Airlines. And it's because sometimes we all take a little bit different path, and we all, it's part of the learning experience that's going to make you that good corporate citizen, right? Because you know, if you do the things that you did in school at Delta Airlines, for example, you wouldn't have a job there very long, right? And so you have to be in the mindset for when you get to that next job. And there's always something to be learned along the pathway. And, you know, those students that are always willing to listen, right? That's the first thing, you know, and willing to take, you know, this little nugget here and that one there and that one there, and, you know, make your path your own, but don't go through the school of hard knocks because you're too prideful or you don't want to listen to anybody, right? And you want to, you know, that's what I see Pathways to Aviation and Choose Aerospace is going to do. It's going to take away a lot of that unknown and really create an opportunity for everyone to succeed as they so choose, right? It's still a choice. You got to do the work. You know, aviation is it is not going to come to you easy. Nothing good ever does, by the way. That's a big fallacy. You got to work for everything. And I think that's part of, you know, the message that we want to share, but we want to partner with people, not only just big companies, right, that are hiring the folks that have the financial means to help support an organization, you know, our organization, but also, you know, all the other smaller entities that are every bit as critical to create the great corporate citizen that we want at the end, that's going to pay taxes, that's going to do, like Crystal said, be involved in the community and really be on that. You know, I always like to also say a six-figure salary. And it's not all about the money, but money is kind of important too. So you can't deny it either. So
no, and it's just as employers are having a hard time finding the talent has a hard time finding the employer, but also having a conversation with the employer, whether it's electronically by email or on calls like this or face-to-face. And that's where we come in. That's where you come in. We're not going to do the work for them, like you mentioned. It might actually be harder, but we're giving them a direct path, and we're giving them every resource possible to be successful in whatever they choose to be. If they want to be a lawyer, cool, do it in aviation. You know, I think, but I think if we give them a roadmap, if we give them the skills that they need to be successful, they're literally going to go to the moon. And that's what makes working at Pathways to Aviation, that's what makes being on the board and working for Choose Aerospace so exciting, is because we can literally see the opportunities in front of them. We just need to help them navigate down that roadmap, and that's fun. Question on that, and I talked about vision, is I know that October 17th is a special day. Can you tell me why?
Something going on there, Crystal, right?
No.
This is your cue.
That's my cue.
Oh God, was this on the interview sheet?
No, it's your scholarship deadline.
Yeah, the scholarship deadline. I was going to say, I think that's what it was.
I think it's the 15th.
I thought it was the 15th, but
yeah.
maybe it's not.
2 days. You brushed on the scholarships, but if I'm on the call and I'm interested in a scholarship, what do I have to do? What does it look like? What's it all about?
Yeah, so go to chooseaerospace.org, and there's a page at the top that says scholarship. Click on that. Ryan mentioned we have all kinds of different awards because members of the industry organizations have supported us in various ways. So monetary, textbooks. If you're an A&P student, for sure look, because there's some great opportunities to just get supplies that you might need for schools, trainers, instructors. There's some scholarships. We actually had a meeting earlier today. We have volunteer workforce or volunteer set of individuals that are doing all the review of the applications. And so, yeah, Pete, we can totally sign you up. And well, we might need it. And the only reason I say that is because apparently, and I don't want to deter anybody from applying for an award, but apparently there's like 400 applicants in there. So we'll see if they all get, come all the way through to fruition. But for our inaugural, year, and not really having, the base is our schools trying to get the word out. We're trying to figure out how to best market it. But it seems that, you know, the word is getting out there. So yeah, the deadline is October 15th. Super easy. You can fill out one application and apply for all the awards at once. So, and let me also say, if you've got people out there that need help administering their scholarships, this is also what we're seeing. You know, like we have a lot of organizations that give out scholarships. Maybe it's hard for them, you know, it's tough, right, to get all these reviewers. So if you want to funnel future gifts through Choose Aerospace, you know, be part of the review process, we're happy to help market those opportunities, get it streamlined, obviously with the sponsor's name and all of that. So that is to come. We'll do this every year. This is, like I said, the first year we're going to do it in the spring, and then, you know, the bottom kind of dropped out on us a little bit, so we ended up moving it to the fall, but I imagine we'll try to pick it up again in next spring. So
I think you're seeing a lot of applicants because we put it on our website here just like a month ago. So
well, that must have been
That's
it.
got to be it. That's got to be it.
So,
Well, and I got to say, if I could, I mean, you know, having been involved with ATEC and this, you know, giving out of scholarships, there's nothing worse than a scholarship that goes unawarded.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody just didn't want to take the 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes required to fill out an application. For me, I don't know. I wasn't independently wealthy as a student, so I took the time required to fill out those applications, and sometimes there was no competition in some of these, right? Where you know, nobody else applied and you're the only one, and guess what? Congratulations. And so if I'm a school and I'm thinking about, Choose Aerospace scholarships, man, take the time. Crystal has made it very, very easy. And we've done that we wanted it to be, right? We wanted it to be competitive, but we didn't want to be, everybody's got a life and everybody's got stuff to do. And we wanted to make it in a way that, you know, we didn't discourage anybody. And so if you're listening today, or you're gonna be listening through the recording, it's very, take the time. I mean, it's free money. I think everybody wants free money. So.
Well, and I'd be remiss if I didn't also mention, so ATEC website is www.atec-amt, that's alphamary-tango.org. We have a scholarship page on the website where we take all, you know, like if Pathways to Aviation has a scholarship, we put them on that page so that it's just a clearinghouse, right? Like we have a lot of our instructors that say, man, there's so many opportunities out there, but where do we go? So we try to collect everything that we know has to do, most of it is aviation technical, but a lot of these organizations provide scholarships for operations, aviation specific. So everything we know is on that page, and we add opportunities as we get them. So if you're looking for funding, that is a great resource to go to. It's the scholarships at the top of the website.
well, we're looking for funding too. So if you want to help in any way. But on the scholarships, like I review scholarships religiously for 3 or 4 nonprofits. And so I get the process.
Yeah.
And I can see it from the student's eyes or the applicant's eyes, and that it's hard. It's hard to sit down for those 30 minutes and craft something that you are hoping is compelling for the reader to say, wow, you're the one. And it's much like when we help students with writing their resume, because it's hard. And so I can kind of see why some of those scholarships go unfunded, but that's also what we work with students to do, is not just the resume, but the scholarship. Like, we'll help you sit down. We're not going to write it for you, but let's help you identify your skills, the whole process, so that your scholarship can be super compelling. My question to you, though, right, with these scholarships is, how young can I be? What is the minimum age of the applicant? Uh-oh.
I don't think there is a minimum age.
There isn't well, in a lot of cases, Pete, they are geared towards aviation schools.
Okay.
So one of the benefits to, ATEC members, right, is that they're an ATEC member, and therefore they are, they're eligible for the one of the benefits is the scholarships, right? So every student that they have, is available, is able to apply for those scholarships. So, in most cases, I see that changing over time, though. ATEC, if you kind of go back into its history, You know, a lot of the scholarships were geared almost exclusively towards aviation maintenance schools, which was the FAA certificated schools. So the benefit was to students that were already they're already in school, right? I see happening with Choose Aerospace is a migration, not away from that. That'll still can be a very valuable component, right? Because as you're going through school, as a poor college student, like I was, you need money too. So that's still an important role. But I also see, you know, the broadening of the range of students that you're going to be impacting, right? And so especially your senior year folks, your junior year folks potentially, that are going to be choosing to go to college at these schools, and or going to a job out of this curriculum that we're creating, right, to help them transition from their high school to AAR's facility in Miami, for example. So I definitely see that happening, but it is all on the Choose Aerospace page. You know, the criteria is very, very, very clear on those applications, you know, from that perspective.
Cool. No, these are questions I ask in case somebody's watching and they say, well, I'm 14, am I eligible? So that's why I ask these questions, because we do work with a lot of high school students, and a few are on the call right now, and hopefully it inspires them to at least apply. We always believe if you apply with a compelling application and you don't get selected, you might find yourself on somebody's radar, you know, and you might read something where I'd be like, oh my gosh, Alex is a kid we want to hire in 3 years. We're not going to award him, but I'm going to follow this kid to see where he goes.
Right.
That's
I mean, I will say
absolutely.
we have a lot of recruiters that are on our review board. So they're good points I didn't think about.
And I think the practice, right? It's just, you know, high school, that's what high school is about, right? I have 3 boys of my own, and we're constantly, you know, arguing about the valid, you know, whether or not I'm ever going to use this in my life. And, you know, you have all of that, right? Of high school students and middle school students. And, you know, and I keep telling them, listen, it's about practice, right? And it's about repetition, and it's about, you know, you're right. If I lost, what did I do wrong? And how can I make it better next time around, right? And so that's definitely a big component, you know, that we want to encourage. And, you know, I really look at, you know, that being the clearinghouse, you know, Choose Aerospace for the future, right? I think a lot of employers are going to find Choose Aerospace meeting their mission, right, of broadening the aviation technical workforce. And we have the capabilities to definitely to make that happen. So.
Wow. I love bumping into passionate people, and this interview, thank you, because you've really demonstrated your passion, not just individually for your own careers, but Choose Aerospace, and we're all in. So let us know how we can be a resource to you guys. If there's anything that you want to share before we close out this interview, let it be known, but this has been amazing.
I might just share just quickly. We have team members that aren't here today that represent. You know, I obviously represent my employer AAR as a major repair and overhaul center, but we also have a regional airline board member. We have a board member from the Aviation Institute of Maintenance, which is the largest set of A&P schools in the country. There's 13 of them across the country. We're adding on an executive director from the Federal Aviation Administration to represent the regulation side of things. And then finally, in our industry, labor is critical. And so we have a labor organization that represents several major air carriers, the technicians in several air carriers that are going to be coming on board at the end of October. And so you really have the entire, you know, swath of aviation kind of industries as a part of this, including the regulator. And we did that, you know, strategically, because we really wanted to ensure that what we were doing affected broadly the aerospace industry, not just one entity. And at the same time, making sure that we had you know, we were high enough up in the FAA regulatory world in which we live in that we can, you know, we can work closely with the administrator and his staff to open the doors that need to be opened or the barriers that need to be removed to ensure that, you know, that we're prepared to support the entire aerospace industry, you know, when the pandemic is in our rearview mirror at some point. So we've got a great team. Look at that, chooseaerospace.org, and I'll turn it over to Crystal for kind of last remarks.
No, that's it, man. You did great. It's been fun.
Well, we really appreciate having you guys on. It's a big week for us. We're celebrating careers, and I couldn't think of a more impactful interview. Again, it was our second interview of the week. The first one was amazing. This one is just as great. So really, thank you for your time. Thank you for your input. And we're definitely going to see some great things from Choose Aerospace. And we're happy to be along for your journey.
Yeah, it's only what our volunteers put into it. So Pete, that's what's going to make it.
I can see
that's it.
All right, you two, before I get into more trouble, we'll let you guys go. Thank you so much. Ryan, thank you for your time today. Crystal, it's a pleasure meeting you. Thank you guys. Everybody watching, thank you for attending, and we'll see you at 3 o'clock for some career tips.